In the last episode of History Traveler, we were in Sheridan, Arkansas at the Grant County Museum, where among other things we learned about the tragic crash of a B-17 bomber nearby during World War II. In this episode, we're actually going to the very site of this B-17 crash, where we're going to be linking up with Brandon from the channel Digging on Faith to see if we can excavate any of the remaining wreckage from this tragic crash. We just got out here to the crash site where 9 members of B-17 that was in transit from Kansas to Florida crashed and were killed, and this place has now been turned into a memorial park. And dang, this is really nice. What we are looking at right here is a marker that was the original memorial that was here just outside of Sheridan, Arkansas, where the crash took place. Lists the names of all of the men who died, and it says, at this place, 9 U.S. Army flyers from Smoky Hill Army Airfield, Salina, Kansas, while in performance of their duty to their country, went down with their flying fortress and were killed at 4 p.m. March 12th, 1943. And then in more recent years, well, there was a huge effort to build this memorial park right here at the crash site. So they put together kind of a model of a B-17, and there's another memorial there behind that we'll go look at here in a little while. Now, as I've already mentioned, I don't know as much about this story as others might, but there's a gentleman local from here in the area by the name of Nelson who was largely responsible for the planning and construction of this memorial park. He's had contact with the families of the crewmen of the B-17 that crashed here and knows in detail a lot of things about those men and about the crash. So he's been kind enough to join me out here and is going to help fill in some of the gaps with what happened here in March of 1942.
March 12, 1943, a crew of 9 on the B-17 bomber that's here, the model that's here at the park. They left Salina, Kansas about 1:30 in the afternoon. They had orders to go directly to West Palm Beach, Florida, to join their squadron of 28 other B-17s. And their orders were to fly directly from Salina, Kansas, to West Palm Beach, Florida, which would take them over Memphis, over the Memphis area. And their orders were to fly at 10,000 feet on a direct path. Well, what happened, there was a major thunderstorm that blew up in Missouri, and the thunderstorm line was all the way to Louisiana. So pilot George Davis turned his aircraft to the south and flew parallel to the thunderstorm. That brought him 100 miles off course, and the event, once the plane, they got past Little Rock, they started having outboard engine trouble on the starboard side, and the plane, the engine was so bad, the plane was shaking and losing altitude. It had caught on fire, and the plane circled Sheridan 2 times, looking for a place to land. When George Davis was on the radio with Adams Field, He said, my plane is vibrating, it's breaking apart. And the radio went dead, and at that point, the 21-foot section of the wing was blown off when the fire from the outboard engine had gotten into the fuel bladder in the wing, and it blew the wing, that portion of the wing, completely off. And it went in the air almost a mile west of here, and it was found a couple weeks later. But while the plane was circling Sheridan, we know that the crew members knew of the peril they were in. And Peter Ivanovich was the radio operator, and he had taken a red Army Air Corps handkerchief, and he put one of his dog tags in. He took his rosary off, and he took his little miniature deck of playing cards that was in a leather pouch. And he had bundled those up, and he was yelling out of the window, the waist gunner's side window, get these in my mom. His mom was Gladys Ivanovich, lives in Bisbee, Arizona, and a week or so later, that package was delivered to his mom. And so we know that the crew knew they were in peril, and they knew their plane was more than likely going to crash land, and they might not survive that. So it was about a little after 3 o'clock when they flew over Sheridan, and there was a young boy. School it was just about to let out, and he's an elderly gentleman now, up in his 90s, but his Mr. Toombs, and he said that he heard the plane rumbling and making the noises, and he told his teacher he had to go to the bathroom. Well, back then it was outhouses, and he was telling his teacher how bad he had to go, and she let him go out, and he ran out on the playground and was jumping up and down and waving at the plane. And he said that the plane was banking, making a turn to come to the north, and the plane was banking as it came over the school ground. And he said he looked up and he saw the pilot looking straight down at him, and the pilot waved one time at him with his hand, and he could clearly see the pilot. It was low enough he could clearly see him.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just a matter of 6 or 8 minutes later, the plane crashed here. The plane, when the wing fell off, it basically somersaulted over and over, and it did a belly flop just parallel to where we're standing. The nose of the plane would have been toward that pine tree, and the fuselage would have come over this way, and a lot of the debris, including the big turbo off the engine, was found pretty much over where the star of this plane is now. And the crew members were in, of course, pilot and co-pilot, and would have been strapped in the front seats. Most of the crew members, their crew position was near the radio room, where they would be sitting on the floor near the bulkhead. And after the plane broke apart and crashed, some of the civilians that were able to look in the plane saw them in that position with the fuel just burning it, and they were killed instantly. They were killed upon impact. And throughout the night, the fuel from the plane kept leaking out, and it would go down into that creek that's about 100 yards down the road, and it would feed into the creek. And the brother and sister that lived over here on the hill, they said that throughout the night they'd get up and look out the window, and they could see that the flames in the creek from the fuel still burning.
Wow.
And that they could the shells just kept going off through the night.
Now, one of the things that I really, really like that Nelson is doing is bring school groups out here to teach them about this story and about the sacrifices of the men in World War II. And here are a few of the items that he brings out. So here's obviously an illustration of a B-17, and it also has on it all of the crew that passed away in the crash. So the pilot George Davis, Robert Turchett, Dolan, Peter Ivanovich. So all of these guys had their final moments right here where we are standing. And also, just to make it a little bit more personal, I'm going to move this. Well, the families have donated different items. Here is the footlocker of Arthur Nelson Potter. And over here, whenever they were building the memorial, they did some metal detecting and excavation. Here are a few of the pieces of wreckage that were found. And really what is most impactful to me is Nelson told the story of Ivanovich, who wrapped the rosary in a handkerchief and threw it out the window with instructions to give it to his mother. Looky here. Here is Peter Ivanovich. Here are his two young daughters. And here is the handkerchief, the rosary, and the dog tag that he put in it that he threw out the window. Also included in there was a deck of cards, and I guess his wife called him the King of Hearts. And in the deck, the one card that was missing was the King of Hearts, and it's thought that he may have had it, in his hat or in his pocket or something like that. But man, that is something else.
The families of the crew members I've been in touch with, they really want this story told to school children. They want the memory of their loved ones that were lost here to be told. And so, like, this is a box I got from George Davis's family. His nickname was Bashful George, and he was the pilot. And so they send all of their graduation, all their different certificates that they got through the military, and letters that were written to and from family members. And one of the things of interest here, nearly everything in the plane was totally destroyed. The fire was so intense that the military only found less than $2 of pocket change, and it was basically melted and fused together. But one thing that did survive was the first lieutenant pilot wing, and the military couldn't determine if that came from the George Davis, the pilot, or Robert Turchett, the co-pilot. And so this is a letter that was sent to George Davis's parents, saying that since George was the senior official on the plane, the highest ranking officer, that they wanted the Davis family to have the wings. Yeah.
What do you have around your neck there?
Oh, the family members, like the tag that's in the best shape here is one of George Davis's tags that he had with him when he died. The other one is at the museum. And then Arthur Nelson Potter, this one was found just on the other side of the road in the woods. It was found about 30 years after the crash, and the family gave this to me when they came down in 2015. Both families gave these and wanted me to show the school children and tell the stories of their boys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
right, so I'm now moving up here to the back end of the memorial, and man, this is pretty amazing what they've done here. But if you go up, they have a spot memorializing each one of the men who died in this crash. Something else that I really like is that they also have a phone number that you can call, and then you punch in a number. So in this case, for Arthur Potter, well, you dial that number and then punch in 24, and it'll tell you a little bit of his story. Okay, so for Leo Dolan, you would call that number. So again, you can kind of see that for yourself and maybe call and learn about these men. Punch in 23, and you can learn about Leo Dolan. And the numbers go, let's see, I started backwards. But for the crew members, starts at 16 and then goes to 24. I love what they've done here. Here's another part of this whole story that is just really, really neat to me. At one point, this memorial was nothing but this stone sitting in the middle of a swamp, really. I've seen pictures, and it was just this stone in the middle of a bunch of water and swampland. Well, this guy right here, Jerry Glenn Jackson, was in the Scouts. He was looking to become an Eagle Scout. His parents brought him out here, and he was so moved by the place that he decided to do something. So he took it upon himself as an Eagle Scout project to come out here, clean the area up, plant flowers, and really honor the men who died here. And tragically, as you can see, he died in a car accident a short time later. But they've memorialized him as well. So I know it's kind of easy to pick on, the younger generations and say that they don't appreciate history or they don't know history. Well, they just need somebody to take them out and show them. And then they can make an impact too. Okay, I've just moved across the road from the Memorial Park, and one of the advantages to coming out here with a guy who has his own metal detecting YouTube channel is that he is likely to bring a metal detector with him. So while I've been talking to Nelson, Brandon's been out here kind of on the perimeter of the crash site doing a little bit of metal detecting. So I'm gonna come out here and see if we've found anything.
Damage anything.
Yeah.
More than it has been damaged. As deep as this is, I would assume that it's probably a piece of the plane. Let's see. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. I do believe this. There are some pieces in that little tray in the museum that have the same kind of the same patina on it.
Yeah.
So I do believe that this is in fact a piece of the plane.
Wow. So.
So what I'm doing, like the skin of the plane was made out of aluminum, and so aluminum a lot of times will give off a high tone, which that's what I hear here. There's definitely a piece of.
Oh, yep, sure enough.
Get this thing turned off here. Yeah, definitely a melted piece of, I guess when the plane broke up and exploded. That's definitely a piece.
Wow.
Definitely in there.
Another little.
Yeah, what's
What the heck is that?
it almost has like a silver finish to it, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to get it cleaned up, but I'm 99% sure that this something from the plane.
Yeah,
Okay,
alright.
here we go. Okay, so this is giving a more solid signal, a steadier tone with more even numbers. Oh yeah. There we go.
Oh man.
Yeah. So definitely skin of the plane. You can see the gray is painted on the outside, and then it's just raw aluminum on the inside there. So
Wow. So right now it's the beginning of August here in Arkansas, and Brandon and I have worked out a pretty good unspoken arrangement where I hold the camera and he does all of the work.
yeah, you can tell by my shirt that I'm soaking wet. And JD's dry as a bone.
You're doing a good job.
Is that it?
What is that?
That's definitely it. I'm not sure what this is, but this is definitely, because of the items that I found have all been right here, this has to be part of the plane. Not really sure what it is. It's got the same sort of, corrosion on the metal. We'll have to get it cleaned up and take a look at it.
Wow.
So we dug this piece right here. We just pulled up this, it's either brass or copper, some sort of hose. It's 100% an artifact from the plane. So do a little research on this and see if we can figure out what it is.
Wow. Hard to believe that's been in the ground, what, 75, 80 years?
Yeah, something like that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate, but at least we have the opportunity to save it. So
Yeah. All right, well, that's pretty amazing to be out here where this crash occurred, and to be able to pull some of these relics out of the ground. We're gonna take those pieces and donate them to the museum so that they can put them in their display and kind of add to what they already have to educate the public about what happened here. Yeah, pretty amazing to be in this place. Have one more thing here at the memorial park that I want to show. So I have to say, I was not expecting this. This is a pretty moving place to be here, where all of these men died, and to see what the locals have done here to memorialize this place so that these 9 men can be remembered is pretty impactful. Something else that's very impactful is whenever they were creating this memorial and they were doing the excavation work, here at the crash site and doing metal detecting and finding things, they actually found bones of some of these crew members. Well, those bones are embedded inside of this memorial. So part of them will forever remain at rest here at the spot where they died. I'm so glad that we came out here today. I'm so glad that people like Nelson exist, who are willing to do the work to remember these people and pass on that memory and educate others. But if you're ever coming through the area south of Little Rock around Sheridan, definitely come to this museum or come to this crash site. Go to the Grant County Museum. It is certainly worth your time. Glad that we came here today.